Personally, I do feel there is a preconceived idea of disability on a social basis, which is almost always negative. We are vulnerable, we are helpless, we struggle. Basically, we cannot live as everyone else does without some level of difficulty. The truth is, the majority of us are capable, but we have to conform to social ideals. We don't have a say in how we choose to live. Every decision is made for us. This is my experience, and I gather the experience of others in my position. But why? Why does this happen? And why does it happen so often? This is ableism. You probably haven't heard of the terms ableism and ableist before. And admittedly, I wasn't aware of the terms myself before writing my second book. Ableism is basically discrimination which is aimed towards disability. My first book, CP Isn't Me, was part autobiographical, part factual. It was really a no-holds-barred look at my own personal experience of living with mild cerebral palsy while trying to make my way in the world, coming up against a lot of hidden barriers just from the discrimination and prejudice from society, which sadly comes with the territory of having a disability. With this constant mistreatment, I faced daily my own mental health deterioration. It deteriorated significantly as a direct result. CP Isn't Me details my struggles, that of trying to be recognised as a person and not just as a disability, trying to be seen beyond the wheelchair. It reflects my struggles, my personal struggles and those in society, when the recognition of me as an individual failed. I lost my confidence and motivation to carry on. I was a shadow of my former self. I didn't recognise myself. The once happy child was replaced with a cynical adult. I hated everyone and everything around me. Rejection will do that if you're overexposed to it. It was my sister-in-law, Kerry, who gave me the push I needed. She's a secondary school English teacher who would be here today if she wasn't working, of course. And she asked me if I could write a review on a book about cerebral palsy for her class and see if I identified with the protagonist or not, to see if it really was a good representation of cerebral palsy, and if not, why not? The response I received from that review was incredible, to say the least, and this is what spurred me on to try and write a book of my own. My dad always said that I should start a career in writing, and my English teacher in secondary school said that I had a good imagination, but because of the lack of confidence I had at the time, from the bullying related to my mild cerebral palsy, I got to a point where I was so sick of being judged and labelled that after the positive response from the review, I thought it couldn't hurt to write everything down. It was basically a last-ditch attempt to save what little of myself I had left. CP Isn't Me, with thanks to the likes of Leslie Griffiths, MS for Wrexham, not only for promoting it, but for taking CP Isn't Me to the Senate in Cardiff for them to sell, and also the Jacksons endorsing CP Isn't Me, the book became a great success. Having wonderful stockists take a chance on CP Isn't Me helped immensely in the book's success and also in my confidence. The success of CP Isn't Me spurred me on to try and write a second book. Admittedly, at first, I didn't know what the second book was going to be. I knew I wanted to write another book to keep the conversation going on disability, but I didn't really know what approach to take. Then one night, I sat there, and it was as if a light bulb had switched on. I will ask the public their views on the subject of disability. I didn't know how or even if my idea was going to work, I wondered if people would be willing to share their true thoughts on disability. But with the success of CP Isn't Me, I thought to myself, I have to try. This was the natural progression, to me at least, of trying to change perceptions on disability. Before writing, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Have the confidence to ask the general public to give their honest opinion on what disability means to them. But after the success of the first book, I was determined to try, and I'm glad I did. Never did I imagine the overall positive response from people who were willing to contribute by answering questionnaires, etc. There are far too many to mention, but to name a few: Leslie Griffiths, MS for Wrexham; Kerry Evans, Disability Officer at Wrexham AFC; the Senedd in Cardiff and even the House of Commons in London; Cerebral Palsy Cymru from Llanillen in Cardiff; MenCap, Scope, the Wales Millennium Centre, and many more. And of course, the Llangollen Eisteddfod as well for the second year, which has supported Samantha in having her voice for what she represents. Since writing, I've personally found that I'm more aware than ever before of the complete lack of accessibility there is for disabled people. I was aware, obviously, as I'm living with a lack of accessibility, but I'm more tuned into that fact. I notice more little things that the average person may not, and I'm making it my mission to try and improve accessibility where I can. I'm currently working with Leslie Griffiths, MS for Wrexham, on 2 particular accessibility areas in Wrexham, and I'm hoping something is going to change for the better soon for these particular places. All the signs are that progress is being made. So you may be wondering about the title of the second book, Disabling Ableism. And if you are, that's absolutely fine. As I mentioned, I only became aware of the term whilst doing research for the book. Ableism, how I describe it, is the same as racism or homophobia, but it's aimed at disabled people. The targeted outcome is the same: to discriminate against a certain demographic of the public. It's ultimately barbaric. I want to try and disable ableism for good by asking society about disability. I'm hoping that people will begin to realise their attitudes towards the subject for the better. I, for one, despise the word disabled. It has negative connotations from the very start. And if I interject personally here, I spent 10 years as an English teacher abroad, and one of the things we looked at was negative prefixes on the words in the English language. And of course the word disability begins with a negative prefix. That says a lot itself. There seems to be a perception of the term that is false on so many levels. Disabled people have no chance of living an independent lifestyle with this label hanging over us on a daily basis. We're patronised, degraded, discriminated against, considered weak and vulnerable, even by people who perhaps don't know better, even if it's essentially mistaken or misguided. Every person is different, able-bodied or otherwise. Some of us are more severely disabled than others. Some of us have hidden disabilities, but we're still human beings at the end of the day. We all have personalities and dreams. We should never be treated any differently from the next person, whatever our physical or mental condition. It's not fair, it's inhumane, and it goes against everything society claims to be. This is what disabling ableism is about, trying to make people realise this as fact. We need disabled people to intervene and raise awareness of these issues. Otherwise, nothing will ever change. Disabling ableism is a generalised view of disability through the eyes of society. It is a continuation of the fight for disability equality. Equality of any kind should never have to be a fight. And with the kind contributions within the book, we are one step closer to becoming an equal opportunities for all society. Disabling Ableism is currently available online at Amazon and in-store at Waterstones in Wrexham, the Senef shop in Cardiff, Cerebral Palsy Cymru in Llanishen, Cardiff, Denbighshire libraries, including here in Llangollen, Wrexham Library, Manchester City Library, Coleg Cambria, Wrexham, Wrexham University, Liverpool University, Derwen College in Cabowen, and many others. I'd like to thank all of those who have kindly promoted the book so far, including the Leader newspaper, Love Wrexham, Essentials magazine, Leslie Griffiths, and Tiger Bebo Jones. I want to thank each and every person, because if not for their wonderful contributions, disabling ableism wouldn't be possible. Samantha has also asked me to thank myself, so thank you, Samantha, I appreciate it. I also want to thank my family, my mum, dad, Ian, Kerry, Rosie, and Tommy. They're all around you here today, again for their support and encouragement since becoming an author. I know that it wasn't easy for you when my mental health deteriorated, but personally, I'm so grateful that you all stuck by me and helped me through. I really do love each of you ever so much. Mum, thank you ever so much for helping me to begin the journey by initially finding a publisher who was willing to publish CP Isn't Me. Without that initial help, there's no doubt in my mind that I wouldn't have had incredible opportunities and experiences, such as I've had. Dad, thank you ever so much for creating the artwork for this book and bringing my concept art to life. I really do appreciate it. Again, to my dear late Nan, Mary, thank you ever so much for your support and love throughout my life. Your positive attitude with regards to my disability gave me the strength to know that I could be whoever I wanted to be. Well, 1 graphic design degree and 2 books and counting later, I know who I am, and I'm happy. Thank you so much, Nan, for everything. I really do love you and miss you every single day. Thank you to Llangollen Eisteddfod for giving us this opportunity to speak about my books, alongside the importance of disability equality again this year. Having platforms such as this will help to get the message out there. I really do appreciate the support. I'd like to say thank you as well for all the other events I've had the privilege of attending to help promote my work and promote disability equality in general. These include my recent meeting with the Mayor of Wrexham in the Wrexham Council Chambers. She is of course here today, and thank you for attending in support. The Adventure Playground in Wrexham for inviting me to work with them to improve accessibility for disability, alongside the other events I have coming up soon. You may have noticed that I said 2 books and counting. You may also have noticed that I mentioned my mental health deteriorated significantly as a direct result of the discrimination I have faced from people in society because of disability. I am planning to have a 3rd book, which I'm excited about and is currently in the works, looking at how disability impacts on mental health from a social standpoint. As long as there's ableism in the world, I will continue to write until disability equality is reality. I'm even toying with the idea of a children's book on the subject of disability in the future, normalising disability for the younger generation to understand. I finally found my calling in life, and this is thanks to everybody that I've mentioned today. I do hope that disabling ableism carries on the conversation for disability equality, but furthermore puts the conversation into action. I really do want people not just to read the book, but to recognise that change does need to happen. And if by reading the book somebody takes one tiny change, that is ultimately a success. Enough with this stigmatisation of disability. What is portrayed in media, 9 times out of 10, isn't real. We need to start understanding that everyone is exactly the same. We just have different abilities. I'd like to finish with a quote from Janet Jackson that those who attended my book launch would have heard me play. In complete darkness, we are all the same. It is only our knowledge and wisdom that separates us. Don't let your eyes deceive you. Those are the words of Janet Jackson. And those have been the words of Samantha Maxwell that I read on her behalf. If you'd like to have a chat with Samantha, if you'd like to approach her and come and have a one-to-one chat, then please do feel free to have a chat. Please do feel free to have a look at the book which is available here. But in the meantime, please do put your hands together for Samantha Maxwell. I'd like to invite, if anybody would like to ask questions, just Samantha will be here for a little while. Just please do come and feel free to have a little one-to-one conversation. Thank you.